First of all, I just want to say that just because you are in a reading slump, which means that you're not able to read for a prolonged period of time, you're not able to invest yourself into a book even though you know that, oh my god, I am supposed to love this book, you must know that it is completely normal and it happens to the best of us. Just because you're not able to read right now or you have not read even for a few years does not mean that you have magically turned into a non-reader and you will never be able to read in your entire life. It just means that you need to follow a few of the tips that I'm going to give you in this video to get out of a reading slump, no matter how long your reading slump has been. And to help you out even more, I also have some book recommendations that can help you to get out of a reading slump. Your desire to read is all that matters when it comes to being a reader. Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing very nice and I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. Hi, if you're new, welcome to the channel. I really hope you enjoy the content, and if you do, please do consider subscribing. I am so very passionate about this video because I have been in slumps before and I have been scared to death for my own life, because along with being one of the biggest parts of my life, being the biggest source of pleasure of my life, it is also a very big part of my job, and if I don't read, that is it for me. But I have figured out ways how to take care of it, and I am so excited to be sharing it with you guys too now. And we're gonna start with why you may be in a reading slump right now. The biggest two reasons why I get into a slump is because either the book was too good for me or the book was too bad for me. There is no in between. When a book is too good for you and you flip the last page and that world is over, you have invested yourself so much into the characters, into the story, you feel like you will never read anything that will match up to that, and that is one of the biggest reasons why you may get into a slump. I have fallen into a slump after reading some of the best books I have ever read in my entire life because nothing would match up to it. The second reason is that I have read books which I knew that I should be dropping, but I was not dropping because I was like, I'm just gonna stick with it, and the only thing that came as a result was that I fell into a reading slump because I was like, reading cannot give me the pleasure that I desire from my life. So if you have been forcing yourself to read certain books, certain genres simply because they are popular or for any other reasons, there are high chances that you will fall into a slump. Now that we have the reasons out of the way, you must remember that books are always there for you no matter what. They are not going anywhere. Your books love you as much as you love them, and the best thing about books is that there is one book for everyone in the world to make them a reader, and two, they will never ever leave you alone. Which takes me to the next part of the video, which is how do you get out of a reading slump once you are in it. The first tip is a special Anchal Rani tip, so listen to it carefully. I call it the forbidden love. This is the ultimate tip, and I can't believe I'm giving the first tip as the ultimate tip. I think I should keep it for the end, but I don't care because I want you to start reading. Look at the books that you already have in your shelf, or look at the books that you want to buy, and tell yourself that no matter how much you want to read that book, no matter how much you want to buy that book, you cannot buy that book, you cannot read that book. It does not matter how much you want to, it does not matter how much time you have, it does not matter how convenient it is for you to just pick it up and start reading right now, you can't read the book. This is the forbidden love rule of Anchal Rani. When you love something so much but you can't get it, your human brain is just going to want it more, and that's just how we are. It is this urge we have, the curiosity that we have inbuilt within ourselves, which pushes us to do what we shouldn't be doing. And so if you ban yourself from reading for a period of time, you will want to read it as much as possible, and that is when that blocked time gets over, your urgency, your curiosity will get the best of you, and you will do anything in the world to just pick up the book or just buy the book and read it already. From that we come to the second tip. Forget about everything else in the world. Forget about hyped books, forget about genres that you like or you don't like, forget about who is telling you what you should be reading, even if it is a book channel like me. Forget about the books that you already have, forget about the books that are in your wish list, forget everything. All that you need to remember is that you are a brand new reader and you have the option to choose and pick on any book you like in the world. This may include going through Amazon, or it may include going to a bookstore. Look for a book and make that entire experience yours. I was going through a mini reading slump last year, and at that time I bought books even though they were expensive that I saw nowhere on social media, that I did not buy because I wanted to recommend it to you guys. I did not buy it to test the hype. I did not buy it because they are underrated. There was no reason as to why I bought them. I just started doing my research, going on Amazon, going to bookstores, and I bought Wrath and Dawn, I bought Almond, and I was already following the Forbidden Love rule. So when they arrived and I got to open the package, or when you go to a bookstore and you buy it, like after reading the blurb, when you're buying books you have never seen anywhere else, that is literally the best feeling in the world. Also, when you're buying your own book, which is not a recommendation by somebody else, you do not have others' expectations already overloaded in your mind or on the book, and so you're going completely fresh into the book by your own choice. You're the god of this world, and there's a big chance that that book will be the book that will help you to get out of a reading slump. From this we come to the third tip, which is if you cannot buy a book or you cannot go to the bookstore to buy a book because you just can't for multiple reasons, listen to audiobooks. Audiobooks are going to be the savior of your life. Platforms like Storytel, which is an audiobook platform, have 2.5 lakh plus books. Are you seeing the number of choices that you have? It is insane, and you can pick on anything in the whole world. It also has multiple languages, which means you don't really have to read a book in English. You can read it in your own mother tongue, and maybe that is what will ignite your love for reading again. Not just that, audiobooks make it very easy for you to read a book because you're not actually reading and you don't have to focus. You can multitask and listen to a book. The same thing happened to me once when I was in a reading slump. I listened to 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is one of the books that I'm going to be recommending right now, and that was so out of nowhere. Even though 7 Husbands is actually very popular, I did not know anything about the book. I just picked on it because I read the blurb and it was so interesting, and I was listening to it as an audiobook, so I didn't really have to do anything. I finished the book in one night, and after that, in that month itself, I think I read 10 books. Not all of them audiobooks, some of them were also physical books. Next up, we have a very interesting tip which you can combine with all of the tips that I have just given, because you're just going to feel so much more inspired to read after it, which is consume bookish content. By bookish content, I do not mean recommendations or people telling you that this is the book you should be reading. I mean watching reading vlogs, watching wrap-ups of people, how they felt when they were reading the book. And when you watch reading vlogs, readers have this entire setup. Oh, I will get my beverage. Oh, I will get into a cozy reading nook. Oh, I have my book in my hand. Oh, look at the feel of the book. Oh, look at how it feels in my hand. I think for book lovers, reading in itself is the experience of a lifetime. When you're consuming this content, you will also feel all of the feelings that they are feeling, and you will feel inspired to do all of those things for yourself because you will see how pleasurable it is. Next tip is that you change your environment in which you read, which doesn't only mean on the outside, it can also mean that you read a genre that you have never read before. Change the location where you read. If you read in your bed all the time, it has probably gotten really boring for you to come at the end of the day back to your bed. If you're the kind of person who does not like routine, you can go to a cafe or a reading library and read over there. Or you can also listen to music while reading. When I was reading the Song of Achilles, I was not actually listening to the music that I have put in that video, but that is the music that was playing in my head. And when you listen to certain music with certain genres, you get a different feeling when you're reading it. It becomes more real to you. I could literally feel the pain of Patroclus and Achilles when I was listening to that music in my own mind while reading that book. Because reading slump is something old, it's a place where you are stuck. When you physically take yourself out of it, you bring out the new, you introduce yourself to new things. It is the complete opposite of a slump, and you may get out of a reading slump. These were all the tips, and the last tip I have for you is be conscious of the books that you're picking up, and that is where I am going to tell you which are the kind of books that you should be picking up, along with giving you the book recommendations. The genre that you pick during your reading slump matters a lot. So if you pick on books which are character driven, where character is the main thing and it feels more like a journal of a character, those books are very slow to read and they have very less story in it, which may be a problem for your reading slump, which is why it is a good idea to pick on books which are plot driven, that have a story going on, so that you are hooked to the book to know what is going to happen next. One of such genres is the thriller genre, and there are two kinds of thrillers that you can read during this time. First is where the suspense is so killer that even though not a lot of things are happening while you're reading the book, you just cannot not turn the page to see what happens in the end. And the recommendation I have for that is The Silent Patient. This is the story of Alicia, who has killed her husband and then she ceases to speak. She never speaks again. And you see what happens when her psychotherapist takes on this case and tries to get Alicia to speak, to understand what actually happened and why Alicia would kill her husband, who she loved very, very much. So Alicia is the silent patient. You may get agitated a little bit in the middle because, oh my god, how long am I supposed to wait to know what the ending is or to know what the plot twist is? But this book is filled with so many plot twists here and there, and along with that, it's just so engaging and it is so compelling that you will want to read it no matter what. I read it in one sitting in a place where I had no light whatsoever. I read it almost in street light because I couldn't keep the book down. Similar to that, we have Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. This is a fast-paced thriller and the chapters are short, which means that you get the feeling that you are flying through the book without even knowing when you're doing it as the chapters get over, and you have no space to breathe because of how fast-paced it is. This is the story of a man who gets a call in the morning and something very horrible has happened in one of the biggest institutions in the entire world, and he is a scientist, and so he is called to that institution to figure out what actually happened and what we can do about it. That was literally the vaguest description ever, though you do get what I am saying. But the whole figuring out what actually happened and how do we solve the problem, and the institutions involved are just like so big. The scale is so big of everything happening that you will not be able to keep the book down. And again, as I said, it's just so fast paced. You will fly through the book before you come to know you're done with the book, and that feels like such an accomplishment that you want to read more. The next genre that you can pick on is the romance genre. Romance books are extremely easy to fly through. Not just that, it is also a very comforting genre. So if you're not able to read because you've read something too complex and you want sort of like a palate cleanser and you want to switch it up, that is where romance genres come into play. Now the two books that I would recommend for the romance genre are also of two types. First of all, we have Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. This is a YA book. It is a story of Penny and Sam who meet under very weird circumstances, very scary circumstances, and then they start texting each other. This type of a romance, first of all, it is young adult, so it does not have any spice in it whatsoever, which is amazing. Second of all, it is not just simply out there a romance. It covers a lot of different themes, also themes of mental health, and it talks about them in a very tender way. The book is also very vulnerable, so you get so emotionally attached to the characters that you want to know what happens ahead to both of them and individually to each character. Also, the text format in this book makes it very easy for you to finish a chapter and fly through the book, and you'll be so emotionally moved and you'll finish a book so easily that you will want to read more. The second kind of romance you can read if you're not interested in YA or you don't want to be too emotionally invested in a book is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, or any book like this. This is more like a rom-com. It has all of these various tropes of opposites attract because the characters are so different from each other. It is a small town romance because there is no other way that they don't meet each other. It has a lot of spice in it. While it does carry some amount of vulnerability between the characters, just swooning over the characters and seeing all the romance is just so comforting. It is as fictitious as it can get, and if you are away from reality because of a book and that is what you want in your life, you will want to read more books. The next two books are neither thrilling or romantic, but they have so much story in them. There's just so much going on and it's so emotionally moving that you would not want to keep the books down. First, we have The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is literally one of the best books out there, and it starts off to be so engaging because the main character's best friend dies in the second chapter. Now she has two options. She can talk about what actually happened to her best friend, but then she puts her community at risk. But if she's not talking about what happened to her best friend in reality, she's betraying her dead best friend. That in itself is engaging, but apart from that, this book has themes of racism, activism, and the struggles of being in a community that is prejudiced and has a lot of judgment simply because of the way you look, which sucks. It holds a place in your heart forever, and you just can't forget stories like this. Along the same lines, we have the book that actually got me out of a reading slump, and I listened to it as an audiobook, but I love the book so much that I got the paperback version of it, and the book is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is the story of the seven husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and it is sort of character driven. Actually, this is the kind of book where it is character driven and plot driven because Evelyn Hugo is one powerful, badass character. I love her so much. But along with that, she had 7 husbands. Why? She wants to get into Hollywood. She wants to be a star. She is very ambitious. And these 7 husbands play a role in all of these things. But what actually happens? Why 7 husbands? Because there is so much story going on, it makes the book very fast paced. But along with that, it is super emotional. You'll be invested in it like crazy, and I am telling you, it will get you out of your reading slump. Oh, I love this book so much. Next up, you can look forward to a short story collection in your reading slump, because in there you don't have to read the full book, and once you're done with one story, it is sort of still an accomplishment because you just read something and finished it. The book I would recommend is Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung, translated by Anton Hur. This one especially will actually jolt you out of your reading slump because of how crazy it is, because of the shit going on. It is genre defying, which means you're going to read something that you have never read before, and it will drive you so crazy, and you'll feel so new that you will want to read the other stories too. And as I said, you'll be awake out of your reading slump. The genres of this book is magical realism, sci-fi, horror, and that's the good thing about short story collections. You get so many genres or so many stories in one book that you can pick on the genres that you do like and skip the ones that you don't. Last but not the least, the kind of books that you can choose are very short books that you can finish like this. They don't take a lot out of you, but at the same time, they're not horrible stories. So it's somewhere in the middle, and that will help you with your slump. The books I have for you is Giver by Lois Lowry. This is a fantasy novel of a world which has no color, it has no art, no emotions. When one guy becomes the receiver of memory and he gets to see what the world was like before there was no emotions and there was no art in the world, and you see his journey as to what he does after receiving all of this memory. Another super engaging book, but it is utterly short and you can finish it so instantly you won't know what hit you. And the next book is Questions I Want to Ask You by Michael Falcoff. This is a story of a boy who gets a letter from his mother on his 18th birthday. That is weird because his mother is supposed to be dead. So what actually happened? You see how it is engaging, but at the same time it's so short and it's very easy to read. It is YA, which is young adult, and YA is always one of the easiest genres to read, and it's also emotionally engaging, but not like that engaging where you just drain yourself of emotions. And with that, we come towards the end of the video. That is it, you guys. I really hope you found this video helpful. I really hope you got at least one book recommendation or a tip that will get you out of your reading slump, even if your slump was like 8 years long and your urge to become a reader leads you to become a reader. I'll see you guys again very soon. Please do subscribe. Bye.